here with Gina Talarico. How's it going, Gina?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing this morning? You're over in British Columbia.
Yeah, BC, Canada. We're about, I don't know, 4.5 hours away from Vancouver, so inland. So a little bit in the interior, and it's beautiful and sunny out this morning. So very, very excited for the rest of the day. It'll be another hot day.
I love it. Yes, Canadian winters.
Yeah.
So we connected on Facebook, and you kind of reached out, wanted to share a little bit about some of those things you've seen with social media, and the negative impacts that can be associated with it. Would you mind just giving yourself like a little bit of an intro, maybe what you do, and then we could kind of go into maybe like your story?
Yeah, definitely. So I started out as a social media manager. I've worked online for the past 4 years, or in August, I guess it'll be 4 years. Primarily I've focused on what social media can do for you. So like all of the positive things that social media can bring. And it hasn't only, well, until recently, I realized that now that I've been working with clients one-on-one and selling digital products and being in the space for the last 4 years, helping clients through the negative portions of social media as well is more, or well, it's almost equal now. Teaching them strategy is very important, yes, but also helping them navigate the world of, promoting themselves in an online space is something that, and that, and then when I saw your post, I thought, this is something that I've never been, I've been on quite a few podcasts, but I haven't been on one focusing on this. It's only been focused on business related. So I thought, I think this is my time to sort of step into a different ring here and share other knowledge that I have around social media and mental health. But yeah, I've been a social media coach for the last 4 years. I started out as a social media manager, and then I moved into consulting, and now I sell digital products. And yeah, it's my business has grown and evolved over the last 4 years. My main focus is teaching business owners how to create content through social media. So specifically focused on sales through content and lead generation.
Okay. So I think maybe to start, Gina, like I'm curious, what got you into this field? And then like a follow-up question would be, did you feel the mental health effects of it at some point? I mean, I'm sure you have over the last 4 years because I have a business too, and it's crazy, but
Yeah, it's
but
true.
maybe even like on your own before you even ran a business.
Yeah, so I got into it. I went to university. I was serving and bartending. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do right after high school. And I got tired of, after 2 years, working every holiday, evening and weekend. You can't really have a life after that. So I went back to university. I think I only made it a year and a half in. I realized I went in for marketing. It was something that I was always interested in. And my second year, first semester, I went in and I challenged all of my exams and I passed them all, like midterms, right? So it was like the first 2 weeks of classes, I challenged them all and passed them. So I dropped out. I'm like, I don't need to be here. It wasn't that. I was like,
I already know.
Yeah. So when I was like, obviously there's more things that I should be learning. It's not like I have a whole degree worth of knowledge. But falling asleep in class, I was not there, and I was paying for it. So after that, I applied for the University of Philadelphia. And so what I did through there is I just took a few courses. I just went in, and I don't have a degree or anything, but I wanted to take some third and fourth year courses. And so I found their online courses where they actually focused on digital marketing instead of just regular marketing. Just marketing as a whole, right? I wanted to focus on digital marketing. And so I took a few courses from there, really enjoyed them. And then I've just sort of moved on ever since. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So after I dropped out of university, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to work evenings and weekends. So I started as a bank teller. I'm like banking hours are perfect. Quickly moved my way up. 8 months later, I was an advisor at 20 years old. I think I lied about my age for like 4 years because like who's gonna take like investment and or mortgage advice from a 20-year-old? Like probably not a lot of people.
Can I ask you, Gina, by the way,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like at that point when you kind of stopped going to university, because I think that's very common for like, say 20-year-olds or like around that age. Did you feel like kind of like this isn't for me, or like maybe even like everyone else is going to school and I'm not fitting into this mold? You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Oh my
saying?
gosh. Yeah, like I mean I don't regret going because I learned that it's not for me. Right?
Mhm.
Like I otherwise I if I never went right now, even still not having a degree, I probably would still think maybe I still should have gone. And every once in a while I still have thoughts like that. However, I've been able to either work my way up where it's to the point where a degree wouldn't help. Right now I have results, like I have proven results from other customers that help me or that give me credibility. It has never been a sense of like accomplishment, or it's not like I would get a raise if I got one, right? Working in the online space, that's not necessarily how it works.
Yeah.
Uh, can't just start charging more. You could just charge more because you're worth it and
Yeah,
you can give people
exactly.
results, right?
Mhm.
So learning that quickly, and I was never shamed for it. I think I knew like right away, probably like my first 2 weeks of class, that I was like, I'm not gonna last 4 years here. And I
Mhm.
knew that for sure, but I
Mhm.
wanted to give it a go. And my mom has a degree, my sister has a degree, and I remember going to talk to my dad about it, and he just told me, and he said, you know what, I wish he wishes that he went and had a degree. He has tons of certificates and tons of training, but no actual 4 year whatever specific degree, but he was able to work his way up. He's in senior management in a mining company, um, and I thought, well, hey, you know what, like I have the exact same work ethic as my dad. I'm like a cookie cutter of my dad, so if he can do it, I can do it. And so
Right.
then started in banking after that. But it was, yeah, first 2 weeks of class I knew I was like, this is not for me, and I wanted to give it a go. I didn't want to just take my first, I mean, I didn't, it's not like I wasted a year and a half. I learned a lot. But I knew right away that it wasn't for me. And even if I would have dropped out then, I still would have the same feelings that I have now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super interesting. I mean, that's kind of like a side point, but I think there's so much pressure on kids to go to school. And then there's so
Mhm.
many kids that just do not fit the mold at all. And it's not
Mhm.
like they can't be successful. And
Correct.
that's also like
Yeah.
another side conversation. It's like, do you really need it to be successful? I think
Right.
that's a prime candidate for,
Yeah, another podcast for another time. I'd love to talk about that.
yeah.
I'm like, and you know what? I'm a firm believer in like I have friends who are doctors, lawyers. My sister has a degree in human behavioral sciences. Like they are all, and they use their craft in their everyday life.
Mhm.
However, and in their careers, right? They knew what they wanted to do. They went to school. A friend of mine knew she wanted to be a nurse from like grade 8. She knew, she was like, no, I'm going to be a nurse, and she's a nurse today, and she's phenomenal at it.
Mhm.
I never had that feeling. I knew that there was something that I wanted to do. However, I had a little bit of like shiny object syndrome.
Mhm.
And I just, everything that was exciting to me, which, it's different every year and different as you mature, um, it changed and changed and changed for me. A little bit unsettling, of course. It can be a little bit unsettling because you feel like you don't have a path. Um, I found just while we're on this rant, I found personality tests really helped with me, like helped me with that. So
Mhm.
figuring out sort of why you are the way that you are, and maybe you go through therapy to figure that out, or
Mhm.
maybe you go through, like I just took free personality tests online, and it told me what my natural strengths were, and then through there I found marketing.
Was there specific traits that stood out that,
Um,
oh, this makes sense, or that
yeah, like I can't do the same thing all over again. Like I could never do like data analysis or something like that.
yeah, this
Or like
I
being
can
like
relate 100%. I mean, I think it's just
in,
like entrepreneur. Like that's like the characters of entrepreneurs.
oh my goodness, like I like going to high school, like I wasn't a terrible student. I tried and I got good grades because I knew that it was important, but I was bored. Like even if it was something that I didn't know, like it wasn't like it was new information, I didn't want to be there. The routine did not work for me.
Mhm.
I needed to be doing something different every single day. Even if it was like the same sort of structure, like, get up, work out, like it wasn't that sort of a routine that was bad. It was that when I sat down to do the work, like That's why I loved banking, was because like every half an hour to an hour, you had a new person in your office and you were solving a new problem for them, right? And that was so exciting to me. It was like the same sort of premise of job, but it was a little bit different. And so it was something new. I recently tested like severe for ADHD, which I never in a million years thought I had. I think that it was just like a free online test, so I'm not taking it too seriously. But definitely have some of the traits for sure. Wouldn't classify myself as severe because I can focus, but I definitely have to try.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to take those tests online seriously, right?
Oh my gosh, they're free. So they're the Bible, obviously.
Okay. So you worked at the bank, and then
Mhm.
and then where does it go from there?
Yeah, so I was in banking. I made a commitment to one of my managers to work for 2 years as a financial advisor. And then I was ready for the next step, or I was ready for the next adventure. Um, and it was a bit rocky. It's a very hard job. There's some serious sales targets you have to take, little to no training. I am so lucky with the group that I was with, like the staff, because if I had to sort of do it on my own and do it with the training that the company gave me, there's no way. I probably wouldn't have lasted 6 months. So I had phenomenal colleagues, and my manager at the time as well was just always willing to help. And so I made it my 2 years. I think it was like just shy 2 months, and I applied for a promotion. And so even though I applied internally, you still have to go through the whole interview process, right? Um, and so I was denied that one. So I said, that's fine. I'm not quite at my 2 years yet. I did make a commitment. And at my 2 years, I went to her and I just said, okay, like I'm ready to map out this next portion of my career here. And she had tried to convince me to stay another 2 years. And I said, you know what? No, I don't like this position that much. I fulfilled what I want. I mean, it was unwritten contract, but still, I said, I fulfilled this and I want to go. And she said, well, there's no other opportunity. So I looked around, and there's like an internal place where you can go look for job postings, because they post them internally and then externally. And there was a bunch. And I thought, okay, like I understand if she doesn't want to lose me because it's a very hard job to fill, like a position to fill. However, she made a commitment to me and I made a commitment to her, right? And I took that pretty seriously. So I ended up applying to another financial institution for a promotion. Went through about a 6-week interview process. And at the end of it, the lady, long story short, she told me that I was too ambitious and I should just stay where I was. She said, and I was like, okay, like that's like a bit of an oxymoron, like, ugh. So I sort of asked her to clarify a little bit. I obviously knew I didn't have the job, so I wasn't really worried about burning any bridges. And she just said, well, if we hire you, you're probably going to be gone in the next 2 years. And I was like, well, I mean, like, yeah, but I would work my way up with you if this is like, I don't know. I saw that as an asset and she didn't. So I definitely let that get to me for probably about 2 months, thinking like,
That's fascinating, by the way. Like, you're too ambitious for this job. It's like,
yeah,
how often would you hear that?
no,
How often you hear that?
that's the only time anybody's ever said that to me in my whole life. Like, that was absolutely a new sentence that had ever entered my head. And I was 22. I might have still been 21, but it was that year, between 21 and 22. And then I thought, I was like, you know what? I was like, I didn't, I understood where she was coming from, but I think hindsight's always easier. Whereas, yeah, in 2 years, she might have had to hire for this job again. However, looking on the flip side of that, like the industry that I was in, I could have moved up and they would have just had to hire somebody to support me. It was a support role. And like banking is $1 billion upon $1 billion a year industry anyways. But I was like, so you want to hire somebody to like do the bare minimum and stay there for 50 years? Like, is that like, that's what you want? Like, that's what you want in an employee. It blew my mind.
It's like, it almost sounds like we want someone to be comfortable enough that they just stay in this job and they do like the right numbers, or like close to the right numbers, and then they never really aim higher. Like, we just want someone that's consistent in this job.
Yeah. And that's okay if they hadn't put me through weekly interviews for about 6 weeks with different department heads and things like that, right? Like
6 weeks is so long.
It's a long time. And I mean, and trying to get like time off of work and being like, I mean, like these are all like during the day. Like most of them were on my lunch hour because I'm like, was still committed to the job that I was doing. It's not like I quit and then I was doing this interview process and that's the only thing I had to do that day. Right. And so, yeah, no, I just remember, like, I remember hanging up the phone and she had called me. So I had known, like, it was about a week and a half after they had said that they were going to make their announcement. So I kind of knew going into it that I wasn't going to get it. Didn't know that she was going to like sort of backhand compliment me. And I didn't take it as a compliment at that point either. I totally let it get to me. I thought, you know what, I will never get a promotion then if people are intimidated by me. So it's like almost like I got this a lot in high school. People are like, you're a lot. Like, I'm really loud. I'm bouncing from group to group, whatever, usually making fun of myself, like acting like an idiot, just for a laugh or whatever. That's always the kid that I've been. And it wasn't until recently that I saw, I think it was just like online, but it was like, if somebody says that you're a lot, just tell them to go find less. And I wish I would have seen that like a few years ago. Like, go find less then. Like, if I'm a lot for you, please go find less. Yeah, and
it's kind of what she was saying.
Kind of. And so, I mean, like, knowing all of this now, right, it makes it a lot easier. But I think I was like a zombie for about 2 weeks. Like, woke up, went to work, did my job, came home, ate dinner, watched a movie, went to bed for 2 weeks. And like, I wasn't living, but I mean, it wasn't like during the weekends, like, I stayed in bed for most of the day. Like, I had a definite, like, a bit of a depressive episode. I thought, you know what, that's always something that it was the first time that my ambition was used in a negative context. I've always thought that it was a positive thing. I've always been reiterated my entire life that it was a positive thing. And actually, so it was at the end of that I wrote my first business plan. My mom was in multi-level marketing, and her upline was like, I need help with social media. You're young, you're ambitious, and I have no idea how to get onto social media. And that's the next step for us. And so then I helped her, and I was like, there is a business here. Like, there are so many people that either don't know how to use social or just want help doing their social media. And I was like, I'm a millennial. I grew up with the phone in my hand. I've had Facebook since day one. So why am I like, this is totally a business. So I mapped out my first business plan. I got my first like 5 clients in my I don't know, it was probably about 3 months. So 3 months in, I had 5 clients. I had replaced my income at work. And so I stepped down. I went back. They needed help as a teller. So I went back down to a teller part-time, continued there for another 8-ish months. And then COVID hit. So then I retired from banking and then just worked full-time online. And it was like, I haven't looked back since. So that's sort of very long story short how I got into it. But I think knowing now what I thought was going to be like the end of my professional career, and I was just going to stay where I was for the rest of my life, and that was all that I had to look forward to at 21, and you're good to go now. That's what you get to do for the rest of your life. Actually ended up being a huge open window instead of a closed door for me.
Right. I think that's a very powerful story to hear and share for others, because I just like going from back to the school thing, and then even like, that type of position where like a job doesn't work out, but then turns out to be kind of like, I don't know, maybe a blessing. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, I'd probably still be there working my way up in banking if it wasn't for that. I would have never had the experiences or the ability to actually affect real change now than I would have then. I mean, you still can then, but I feel it more every day doing what I do now.
In terms of, I guess, mental health and social media, so you're getting into social media, you're taking on clients. What have you seen? I'm sure there's lots that you've seen. What have you seen in terms of mental health and relating it to social media?
Mm-hmm. So before my very long-winded story about how I got into it, you had asked me if there was anything personal, like anything that I had specifically gone through. So I'd like to start there. In January of this year, actually, I had about 5,400 followers on Instagram, and my account got hacked. And I still haven't gotten it back. It's like July now. And I had always thought that like my business was an extension of me. So I have a website, I have multiple social media platforms. I teach others how to recycle content so you can show up in multiple places without spending all of your time creating content. And so I had tested those theories out and proved them on my own before teaching them to others, right? But Instagram was sort of my main hub. That was my favorite place to show up for customers or potential customers, and I had the biggest following there. And 5,400 followers nowadays is not that crazy, but still, I had a steady lead of income. I had a steady lead of clients, and then one day I just could not log into my Instagram account. And then somebody else was posting on it.
Even like if we compare to like millions of people that are famous or something, but like 5,400 is like, that's an audience that you had to build. It doesn't just, you don't just start an account and then all of a sudden you have 5,000, right? Like,
correct.
Put some work into that.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, like I've seen it happen kind of overnight, like with Reels and TikToks, like getting large followings. But you're creating an insane amount of content to be able to do so, which is also okay. So I do have hope that I'll get them back. However, I think it's been months now. But I did not realize how much of my own personal worth I put into my business and my following and the people that depended on me, because really, like, I did not know 90% of them. Like, I mean, I had some like lots of family friends. Like, I mean, I just converted my personal Instagram. I think I had like 1,200 followers, maybe. And that was just like from my town here. Like, people, you meet a bunch of people and then maybe some random people. But before I started my business, and then after that, when I started just sharing more educational content, of course, that's going to grow. But I always I'd always told clients of mine that your business is an extension of you, whether you make $10 this month or $10,000 this month. It has no direct reflection on who you are as a person. It has a direct reflection on the work that you've put in, and the last 6 months, like it's all a compound of the work that you've put in the past, right? And I just did not take my own advice at all. So there's that. Like I think I moped for 2 months before even creating another Instagram account. Like I lost 2 to 2.5 months before. I mean, I created the account right away to get my username again, but I didn't post anything, didn't try to get other followers, didn't explain what happened. Other than when people reached out and were like, this person's trying to sell me Bitcoin. I'm like, that's not me. It's somebody else trying to give you $500 for nothing. And then of course they're using my name, my photos, to scam people out of money. Like it just did not sit well. It made me sick to my stomach for like months and months. So you cannot control other people. So, I tried to get Instagram to shut down the account once I realized I couldn't get it back, and that didn't happen either. So unfortunately they're just still out there doing their thing. But it's one of those things where you just gotta move through it. But it took a way bigger toll than I thought it was going to, especially on my mental health. I thought, like I even thought about it. I was like, there's not even any point in me getting my business back up and running. Like I'll just let my Google SEO sell some of my digital products. I had just let go of most of my one-on-ones, and I was going to focus more on selling digital products so I could help, lessen the price point and then help more people, right? Because I found that I was teaching the same things over and over and over again. So I thought, well, why am I not putting this into a course and then cutting my costs down, because it's no more of my time and I can help more people at a more affordable price point. So I did that, and then I had no audience before my launch, like before everything. Yeah, I completely lost the audience, and then I had nobody to launch to other than my email list. But still, it's more exciting to create some hype over other social platforms. But it was like, I mean, and it's still a little bit new, so I'm still navigating through it and building a new audience and digging deep and finding the motivation to continue on or to grow that audience again. And that I wanted to give up for a while. And my boyfriend is also a business owner, and he just said, he's like, no, he's like, if I got all this taken away from me, he's like, there's no way I could go work for somebody else again.
Mm.
And he just says, like, he's like, no, like you just do it again. You did it once, you do it again. And I'm like, oh, like it sounds so simple, even though it's not, but he was right.
Right. Yeah. I imagine it's daunting, just the work to get back.
Correct.
You did it once, but it's like, it was a lot of work to get to where I was.
Oh, it was a ton of work. And I was single at the time. I was, like I was living in my parents' basement. I literally, all I did was I woke up, worked, went to sleep, barely left the house. That was at the beginning of COVID was when my business really took off. I was making, a consistent income. What I was full-time in banking, I was making that. So I was living just fine for the first 2 years. However, social media management is hard work. You're balancing like 6 to 10 clients.
Mm.
Like that, and then it's a lot of communication, it's a lot of meetings, like online meetings, even if it is from your house and you get to wear your pajamas, whatever. I was working more hours than I was in banking. However, it was for myself, so I was like, I didn't mind. And then COVID hit and the world kind of stopped, and then there was a ton of businesses who needed help with starting online, and that's when I really hit my groove, and I really found messaging and like specific offers that really, really took off and were helping people. And then I've stuck with that ever since. And that was when I sort of switched into more consulting than just give me your social media passwords and I'll do it for you kind of a thing.
Right. Right. I'm curious your thoughts on, like it must have been tough what you went through. I'm curious your thoughts maybe now, or even what you would tell a client about, like separating yourself from the business, like the business is not you.
Yeah. Because it's so tough because it is you, right? Like it's like normally the people that I'm working with, it's a personal brand, right? I don't deal with a ton of e-commerce, but people who are like health coaches, for example, or life coaches, it like they are their personal brand, so it's very hard to disassociate when you are the face, you are the name. Like it's not like you can hire somebody to be the spokesperson for your brand because it's you. Most of these people are solopreneurs as well, so it's just them. It's not like they have a team with them that can take a bunch of stress and stuff off. I think the advice that I can give, because I literally just lived it, is that you can receive the same results with doing less, and less is more. So you started your business for a reason, whether it was financial freedom or time freedom, or keeping that in mind and realizing that there's a lot of money to be made out there, that and people they're either gonna buy from you because of who you are, not how often you're putting a reel out, or not how often you're posting on Instagram, or however many blogs you put out that week. They buy from you because of who you are. So putting your personal touch on your business, however, knowing that if you make $10 this month, it's not a direct reflection on who you are. It just, you need some tweaking in your business, as it's nothing personal. It's more like, if you work retail and somebody comes in and starts yelling at you because their candle didn't smell the way that they thought it would, well, that's not personal. Right? That's not the way that it is. Being a business owner, you do have the ability to help fix that problem better than if you just worked retail. However, you have to treat your business more like you're an employee of somebody else's business when things get hard. Because I think that there is a lot of pressure, especially when you've hit a certain amount of success and a certain income level. Having healthy finances is a must. Like I would have had to go and get another job if I didn't have my finances in order and a good savings. Anybody who is also an entrepreneur, if anybody else is an entrepreneur here, you kind of know that like it's not necessarily consistent income like if you were a salaried employee. So having healthy finances is definitely a must. But I think the only way that I can kind of describe it, and I wish I could be a little bit more intellectual about it, but is treating it like you're an employee, like when you need to. So knowing when to take a step back and being like, okay, I'm clocking out for a bit. I need to go and do something, that you would do after your 9 to 5. It's very easy to become like obsessive compulsive almost when things aren't going well in your business.
Yeah.
That you're like, well, things aren't going well, so I can't take time off.
Yeah.
So you have to treat it more like you are an employee. Tomorrow is a new day. If you have to take 2 days off, take 2 days off. If that's achievable for you. It's hard not looking at your business or knowing your business. I think that's a big thing that helped me sort of I set business hours for myself, which I had never done before. And when that was over, it was done. Unless I was like on a roll and I felt happy and consistent and motivated, then I stayed working. But I never pushed more than probably a 10-hour day. Like I stuck with 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, I'm done. Then I go and do something, go hang out with my family, go and sit out in the backyard with my dogs.
Right.
And not feeling guilty about not actively working on your business, because an employee doesn't do that. And that is what you are to your business.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice. And I like the distinction you made with like people are going to buy from you because like who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're an employee to the business, but it's like oftentimes you get caught in that cycle. Like I've seen it with coaches, I've seen it myself, where like you do that. Like you try to keep working when things aren't going very well. Oftentimes what I've seen in myself and others is like, you actually need to take a step back and go be yourself. And that's actually kind of what the problem is like, you're so caught up in this thing that you're not actually just being yourself.
Yeah. Well, and then of course you're not going to sell and then when you're selling from a place of like desperation, because you're like, I haven't made a good income in 2 months. So I can't take time off, for one. And for two, I need to promote more. It's like, well, that could be your problem. However, maybe you just need a break, or maybe you need to ask some of your past clients, what could I do to improve? Is there something else that I could add? Maybe it's your offer that needs to be tweaked. Maybe it's the type of content you're putting out there. If you're just saying, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, and you're not telling them why, people aren't going to buy from you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then you just come across spammy, right? Like it's not, you're not communicating the value of your offer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there's tons of things that can be tweaked, but when you get into that tunnel vision, then it's hard. Like it's hard unless you have somebody on your shoulder, like a coach or somebody who's like, whoa, we need to refigure this out here. Like this obviously isn't working right. If you don't have anybody that's hired at that point, or that can give you advice or whatever, if you're just on it on your own, well, you have nobody to switch off that on button. Mm-hmm. And then you're in a vicious cycle of just being unproductive or staring at your laptop screen or not creating anything or getting any new clients because you can't move forward in a bit of a mental block, right? Or creative block.
Yeah. I think burnout is a big thing too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You're just in that track, and then you're just like, all of a sudden you can't do anything. And then you're just like 3-4 days like sleeping because you just like burn yourself.
You're just mentally exhausted, right? That's why you need to switch gears. I know, like for sure, like they're like in the corporate world, they encourage you to take like a little walk or whatever, even if it's just around the office, on your 2:15s and your 30, whatever breaks you get, like that's what you're encouraged to do, especially at a desk job. That's mostly what I've had. I've never worked, like labor or anything like that, but where you're up and at them all day long. So that's, maybe don't take a break, maybe actually sit down if you're at a physical job. But it's true. You're way more productive when you've stepped outside or you've just go and have a BS conversation with one of your colleagues for 5 minutes. I mean, it doesn't need to last for 30 minutes. We have a bunch of plants. Like I go and water the plants, or like, and that's what, 2 minutes? It's a 2-minute little break. Like I find, or I like obsessively snack, which also can be not good, right? So yeah, watering the plants, or it's helped. We have 2 dogs, so taking the dogs out. They go to work with my boyfriend, so sometimes that's not achievable, but taking a walk myself, or just like, literally sometimes I'll just literally go walk around the house, go and like come back in, go back to work. It's just resetting your brain a little bit. Or if you have a treadmill, like just you do something, but do something that you genuinely like. Like don't just go run on a treadmill because you think that that's what's logical to do. Maybe it's tending to a garden if you have one, or listening to some music, or I don't know. There's a slippery slope. I was gonna say watching an episode of your favorite show, but that's a slippery slope because one episode turns into one more, and then you realize you've taken a 3-hour break.
Turns into 8 hours of Netflix.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
It's
So,
crazy how much that can change your perspective, though. Like doing any of those things. Like
yeah.
I go for a walk every morning, and it's just like I find that really helps me going into like nature. It's just like, but just even if you're stressed, going outside, like I find that really helps. Just like you're just completely untapped. Like you're so tunnel vision into this one thing, and then you go outside, you're like, oh yeah, there's a world out here. I kind of forgot there's a world out here.
It's so true. It's so true. And like, and knowing that like there's a lot bigger things in this world than like your business. Not to put it, not to, under, but there's like, be thankful for what it is that you do have right now. If you've built something that if you're creating an income for yourself, or if you have ambition to create income for yourself, that is crazy. Like, do you not realize like how there's like less than, what is it, like 5% of the world actually creates an income for themselves? Like even if it's $3 a year, like you did that. Like that is crazy. Now you're not depending on somebody else to just give you a paycheck, because of course you're doing something for them. Like you generated that by yourself. You could go get a Starbucks for that. Well, maybe not. I just don't know if you can get a $3 Starbucks. You can go to McDonald's and get a coffee. I was going to say Tim Hortons, but
get a junior chicken with that.
Go get a junior chicken. And you worked for that. Like, it's so like celebrating those little things, I think really helps. And that helps you celebrate the big things as well. But I think we get desensitized the longer that you're in business. Like I remember celebrating like my first $10,000 a month, and then anything less than that, I wouldn't celebrate. I'm like, okay. At that point, I was like, that's not a consistent income for me. Like, why am I not celebrating any sort of income I created in a month, or any new offer, even if it hadn't sold one yet? I still created something that could help someone. Like that is crazy. Just simplifying it. That's crazy. I have an ebook. I'm like I wrote that. Like that is insane. Like you just keeping perspective. Yeah, perspective is huge. And I find for me, nature does the same thing. I don't know if we're just Canadian or what, but
yeah, we like outside.
Yeah, I love being outside. I'd be doing this interview outside right now if there wasn't obnoxious birds everywhere. But and then like I'll turn my phone off. Like unplugging is another big one. Like I literally work on social media. It's so easy to just like keep that hamster wheel going, right? Like when you're spending time on social media after my workday, I'm like, you know what? It's like Rebecca's birthday today, and I know that, so I'm gonna text her. I don't need to say it on Facebook. I'm gonna stay off of that. Like I know, like my sister sends me pictures of her. She lives in Ontario. It's like she sends me pictures of her son. Like I don't need to go on Facebook to see those things. Like the things that matter, pick up the phone and call somebody. Like I unplug as much as I possibly can from social after I'm done my workday.
Right. In terms of clients, like I know that's definitely a big thing, like what we just went over with burnout and all that stuff. Like, Have you seen, I guess, what are the commonalities that you've seen with clients?
So when I first started, I worked more with service-based businesses. So like bookkeepers, copywriters, people who larger coaches or whatever would hire to be on their team, or agencies would hire or whatever. And so when you're a service provider, I guess like coaches would technically, if you're trading your time for money. So that's the bulk of the people that I work with even still. They will know one system that works. So when they hit a certain point, which is normally like 4 clients and above, where you're working full-time or a little bit above full-time hourly, you could be making 5K a month or whatever. Like that's realistic. However, you've got taxes and stuff off of that, so it's not like that's your take home. But they know that that's the system that works. So they find, okay, if I just get more clients, I can get to a 10K month. I'm like, yes, but you don't have 16 hours in a day to service those. So it's stepping out of their comfort zone and reinventing the wheel a little bit. So whether it's increasing their prices, whether it's hiring a team, whether it's refiguring their offers. So not offering as much, but still charging more. You need to sort of counteract how many hours a day you want to be working and what the income is that you want to achieve. And that's going to have that will help a lot with maybe what your offer could be, because it's not going to be solved by just taking on more clients, taking on more clients, taking on more clients. Then if you're already a little bit burnt out, you're not going to last very long. And like it normally when in the past they would hire me, they were like right on the brink of burnout. And so it's like, I mean, sometimes not necessarily just like, hey, let all of your clients go and we're going to start over in a month, take a month off, which is like, would be, if you could financially do it, I would just say, we're going to start from square one in a month, because it's almost unfixable at that point. Because if you're not there, you can't clone yourself. Like there's no, you have to show up and be the best that you are to be able to be, or to have the business that you want, avoiding burnout, right? Or you need to have a different like product suite, which would be like offering a few digital products and then taking 2 one-on-one clients or whatever a month, or keeping 2 retainer clients, ones that help you pay your bills, and then consult or do projects on the side, or something that you can say yes or no to, contract basis, not, no, I want you to hire, like I'm hiring you and you're working for me from now till forever. Every month I'll give you however much money, right? Yeah, burnout is really hard to fix if you can't take time off, if you need the income, right?
So that's a big one. Burnout. You've seen that a lot
Burnout
of
is
clients.
huge.
And then, like, it sounds like just business structure. That's something that you help with, or that's something that's kind of maybe part of the
I would say
problem.
that that's the next logical step is, you have to really take a big step back and probably take a financial cut for a while, but you also can't keep continuing the way that you are. Right? Like normally if you're starting to burn out, then, I mean, some people have the resilience to do it, but then your physical health normally takes a toll, because you're running on overdrive, like day after day after day, working 10 or 12 hours a day just to achieve some sort of a financial goal. Like you can achieve that, you just have to structure yourself a little bit differently, or structure like what earns you income a little bit differently.
I'm curious, like with your one-on-one clients, something we kind of talked about the other day and we chatted briefly was like the fear of posting. And I know this, this would be relevant for people with businesses, but I think it's also relevant, like it goes to just everyone. I think with like posting, comparing yourself to other people, and just the effects of like how many reactions the post gets or interactions. And then again, being attached to that.
Yeah. So I think this definitely happens outside of business. You see so-and-so who you went to high school with, who just bought a house, who has a brand new car, who has a baby on the way, and, the perfect husband or wife or partner. And then you look at your own life and you like see your kid running around and not listening to you and screaming and yelling, and maybe you're still renting or you have an apartment, and it is impossible not to compare your situation to their situation. Absolutely impossible. So don't feel guilty about doing it, because it's impossible not to. The other thing is you also need to realize that they're not posting the day that their kid is screaming bloody murder in Walmart, which guaranteed it happens to them.
Yeah.
But then they go home, they take a picture of their kid sleeping and being like, my little angel. And then what, because you have to fill in the blanks, right? That kid, it can also be a disaster at some point. Like no child is perfect, or no home is perfect. Like the people who they clean their house so that they can post a picture on Instagram.
Definitely,
like that's
not
not real
disaster,
life.
By the way, too, if anybody who has kids knows or been around them.
Yeah.
It's a kid. It's going to be crazy.
they are the boss. Don't tell them we know that, but they get to run the show until they're about 7. And then they realize, oh, when you fall off your scooter enough times, you should probably listen to your mother, like, but they have to make those mistakes first. And so it's, and then, or yeah, like the people who seem like, their house is perfect all the time. Maybe they have a housekeeper, they probably don't. They do have to also clean their underwear. Like, they're a regular person too. And even if it's somebody you went to high school with as well, the comparison was always, they're so much further ahead in life than me. And you know what? Like, it's like a journey through life is not linear. And I think that our school system and past generations have made us seem that there's one structure, and this is the wrong structure if you shy away from that at all. But we are resilient human beings. And if you look hard enough in, history, there's always those people who just decide that, no, it's not for me. Right? Like, it's just, and so whatever your normal is, like, that's why I think being very in touch with who you are as a person. And if it feels like you're swimming upstream, that's probably because that's not what you want to do. And at the end of the day, it's not their life, it's yours if anybody's giving you a hard time, right? Like, they don't have to wake up in your shoes every day. So who are they to tell you what can or will make you happy?
I think oftentimes, like, they as parents too.
Oh, totally. Most of the time it's your parents.
Yeah.
Ran into this a lot when I started my business. I'm very, very lucky that both of my parents are extremely supportive, but it was actually one of my best friend's dads that was like, oh, but you're going to stay in banking, right? Like, you're not quitting. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm quitting. Like, are you kidding me? Like, of course I'm going to quit. Oh, no, that's not a good idea. And I mean, at that point, I was lucky that I didn't take it the wrong way. I just thought, you know what, he is placing his fear of failure on me because he doesn't want to see me fail. And I was like, and I said, that's a compliment because he's trying to protect me. However, without doing a lot of inner work, I probably would have been like, what a dick, right? Like, you'd have been like, okay, come on. Like, he doesn't want me to succeed. He's whatever. Like, you can go down that rabbit hole as well. But failure wasn't an option for me, even if I did stay into a 9 to 5. Like, it was, you have the freedom to work your business when you want to work your business. But you also have the freedom and you have permission to follow whatever it is that you want to do with your life. If it's genuinely going to make you happy, do not let anybody else tell you that it's not right. It just means that it's not right for them.
Yeah, I think there's this whole thing, like, once you get out of high school, right? Because everybody is in the same grade at the same time. So then, like, and then potentially university, it becomes like a race, or that's how you perceive it. So I think especially like when you're young, that's how people think. Like, I thought like that. I think a lot of people do. A lot of people get stuck in that, a lot of younger people. And it's just like where I'm at now, I'm sure you feel this way too. It's like after a while, you just realize, like, just what you said, like with the journey thing, like, let's say that you stayed at the bank and were miserable and hated it. Like, you did do the next 2 years and then did another 2 years. And then, like, you just really didn't like your job and you were very unhappy. And then maybe you got a nice house and you had the husband and then you focused on Instagram and made it look like you had a really good life on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, you never really know how people really feel, but it's like, would you want to, like, play it safe or just simply do something you don't want to do just so it looks better to someone else, or actually make yourself happy?
It's so true. It's so true. And I think, like, being raw and real and talking about, like, as somebody who, being in a place of authority, in like the business space, I keep relating it back to that, but it is relatable to all. Like, being a real human being is going to gain you more traction than if your life is perfect. Yeah. Like, and I think that honestly, that's why Catching Up with the Kardashians blew up. It's not a good show. Like, it's not a bad show, but it's not a good show. I don't learn anything from it. It's entertaining, But you also realize that the people who you think have this perfect life ugly cry too. Like they go through the regular things that we do. And I honestly think that that's why reality TV, especially like when celebrities are involved, like The Bachelor, I mean, like I don't have any emotional connection to how perfect or imperfect their life was before they went on the show, right? For example. However, the psychology breaking it down is genius, actually, because it shows them as real human beings as well. And I think that's why it's so popular. And obviously there's drama and the producers have their writing and whatever, their stuff in there. It's not actual reality either. So there's like a third dimension of what reality really is, because I wonder what it's like when the cameras turn off. But it gives you a little bit of an idea that they have meltdowns too. They don't have these perfect lives that are, and if you look on their Instagrams, it looks like they have perfect lives. And then you watch the show and they're like screaming at each other.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think that's probably is a huge part of why podcasts are so popular as well, like authentic
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, totally.
And, yeah, like the disconnection, like not talking, not hanging out in person as much, or not being connected with people as much as we probably used to be, and then being on social media all the time.
Yeah. Well, and that like it's thinking about like that sounds weird, but I used to like whenever I would be comparing to somebody that I went to high school with that I thought was so much further ahead than me, I just envisioned them like mowing the lawn or like doing laundry. Like I'm like, okay, no, like they do that too. What would they look like if they did that? Probably not dressed to the nines every single day. Like their hair gets greasy too. Like they still have to shower. They still sit in the dirt, even if it doesn't seem like they do. Right? They like nobody looks perfect when they're hiking. Like it's not reality. Unless you can see the bad parts. Like I talk about it all the time, the struggles with entrepreneurship. And I had a feeling that that's sort of why, especially through COVID, because I was talking to people. I was like, you know what, I'm going through this too. But yes, my business was primarily online, but we're all going through, like when we didn't know what COVID was, we're going through this together. And so just being authentic and being like, like this is kind of scary for me too. Like I could work from anywhere in the world and I didn't want to leave Canada. Like I just talked about how I let it scare me and I let whatever. And I got so much traction just by having just like, and I was just talking to my camera, like just on like a live video. Like it wasn't anything special. I was just like, I'm honestly concerned. Like, do you guys have resources for me to read? Because I find that maybe we're a little bit I'm sheltered here with the resources that I found online about what this actually is and what's actually happening in other areas of the world. Like if you're in other areas of the world, please tell me what actually is going on, because I don't know if I trust the news yet. And I got so much traction from it. And it was like you create a community when you ask for help.
Yeah.
Or just like I'm a real human being too.
Being authentic. People resonate with authenticity.
Absolutely. And sharing my own story, like when I first started my business and I had no freaking idea what I was doing, and I just figured it out on my own, and it took me a year. And then I'd say, well, then if you hire me, we can get this done in 6 months. And you can become way further than I was. But I just did it. And it took me like a year to 2 years to figure out all these strategies, right? But I went through it. Like I remember how it is that you feel or whatever, and you use those struggles or emotions in. But like, I mean, if you don't have a business, I mean, that's like sales tactic, right? But if you don't have that, there's no excuse for you to share like when things are not going awesome today.
Yeah.
But it happens. Like there's lots of influencers or people out there who just seem like regular human beings that I'm like, do you know how to cook? Like, or do you know how to do laundry? Do you own a vacuum, or does somebody just come and do it? And I'm like, knowing like what influencers actually make online, I'm like, I don't know if you have a housekeeper. Like, I don't know what your partner does, but like it's, like your income fluctuates a lot as well. There's a lot of people that do really well, but most people who are influencers don't. And I hate the term fake it till you make it, because that is not how you get real results, or real, like by faking who you are. No, it's owning where you are and setting goals to where you want to be. and actively taking a step forward every single day. It's not pretending now that I have the business I want in a year. That's not going to help me. Or the life that I want in a year, or to lose weight, or to be stronger mentally. Like, you can't just fake that right now. It's not going to help you actually achieve it. Visualizing for sure and setting goals, totally going to work. Absolutely. That's absolutely realistic. But if you're just like, oh, I'm not depressed anymore, great. Like, that's not how it works. Like, you can't, oh wait, I'm 50 pounds skinnier today, good for me. Like, no, like that's not how it works. Like, that's like the worst advice you can give somebody ever.
Yeah.
I think living in reality and knowing where you are now and knowing that you have a huge journey in front of you, it's humbling, but it also makes you work harder than pretending like you have what you want in a year.
Yeah. 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 And being okay with the journey. Like, I always see those quotes and it just resonates so much. I'm sure it resonates with you, all the stuff you've done, like be in love with the journey, not the process,
The outcomes.
not the outcome, because
the
outcomes come, but it's everything in between.
That's why, like even that's why you feel like there's like, people who, make their first million and they get this award and they're like, just like stupid humble about it, or depressed, or they're like very, very humble. And they're like, yeah, thank you to my team. Thank you to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you just made $1 million. Like, how are you not freaking out right now? But it's because they genuinely realize that it's not like they just woke up yesterday and were like, woke up today and was like, oh, cool, $1 million. Like, that's probably what it was like. It's not like they were like, yesterday they had $6 in their bank account and now they have $1 million. Like, they've probably failed over and over and over again. And they're like, yeah, I'm not surprised I made $1 million because I failed a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I did the work to make this million. Like, this is not an achievement for me because I've put in the work. I knew it was going to happen. It's just happening now. It's not an if, it's a when. And you don't get to decide the when, but you get to put in the work.
The work is usually what's actually fulfilling.
Absolutely.
It's not like getting $1 million at the end. It's the actual work. So I guess, is there any message before, as we're wrapping things up, is there any message that you would like to give to, like, maybe starting someone as a business that deals with social media a lot, and someone, just the regular person, any piece of advice maybe you would give to them on how to have a healthy relationship or healthier relationship with it?
Yeah, I think having a healthy relationship with yourself is very important. I think if it is that if you're wanting to start a business, I think I have 2 separate pieces of advice, because some people are just, they don't want to start a business, and so this might be obsolete. I want to get a little bit more specific. So if it is something, if you do want to start a business, or if you're thinking about it, I'd say do it for the love of doing it. Like, figure out what it is that you want to do. Like, I find that if people, like, multi-level marketing is a really bad one, right? People join that to make money. And that's an okay reason to do that, but people aren't going to pay you because you want to make money. People are going to pay you because of a difference that you can make in their life. So if you don't actually absolutely love the products, you will not be successful. So generating something on your own would be way more beneficial. Something that you actually love and something that you've actually learned the hard way. Just write an ebook about it and sell it for $15. Like, and then get enough sales a day. Like, you could create an income from doing that. Then once that snowballs, you can create something else. But I find that people are more willing to pay for your expertise than a face cream that they can go somewhere else and get for way cheaper. Like, you really have to sell. So follow your passion, and get to know yourself really, really well, because it is a bumpy ride, but it is so worth it. So, being resilient and getting up every single time that you fall, you do that in life anyways. You would have never learned to walk if you would have just sat down and gave up. So, harnessing that and and it doesn't matter if it takes you 10 years or 2 years. You're not in competition with anybody, and you're not on anybody else's timeline but your own. And I think that sort of bleeds into if you're struggling in life right now, or whatever it is that you're doing, if you have goals, I really hope that you do. I hope that you don't settle for where you are right now. And that's not career wise. That could be, your mental health. That could be your physical health. That could be, the relationships that you have with others. Having clarity in who you are as a human being and why you are the way that you are, so that you can have more successful relationships. Healing and like timelines as a whole are not linear. So comparing will kill your motivation. So if you find that you're not motivated, think about how far you've come already. You don't compare yourself or even think about where you want to be, because sometimes that can be daunting. If you wanted to lose 100 pounds, like that's daunting. But think about those last 6 pounds that you lost, or that healthy meal that you chose to make yesterday instead of ordering in. Focus on the good, but while actively being realistic and moving towards the bigger goal. Wanting more for yourself than what you have right now. We have one life. And so if you are happy, that is really all that anybody can ask from you. However, if you're not, life is too short to live unhappy as well. But knowing that if you are unhappy, there's probably some work that needs to be done for you to create that for yourself.
Right. I love that. It's really good advice. Got me fired up.
Yeah. Yeah. Fail enough times, you have good advice.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Gina.
Oh, it was a pleasure to be here, and very, very glad I could help. No, I mean, we still talked about business a little bit. However, that's mostly what I've talked about on podcasts before. But no, it was a pleasure to be here. And I really, really hope that, if anybody has any more questions or want to follow up with me, I am on Instagram, just my first and last name, nothing in between.
Okay. So do you have a website if anyone needs any help with anything social media?
Yeah.
Some of the digital products you mentioned, where could they find them?
Yeah. So just GinaTalarico.com or just at Gina Talarico on Instagram are my two big places. That's where I hang out the most. So yeah, my website's there. It's also linked through my Instagram. So if you don't have Instagram, you can find me right from my website though.
Okay. We'll plug that in the description. Go check her out if you need some help. Thank you so much for coming on today, Gina. Really
awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.